All right, now we're learning the Dvar Malchut, the royal words of the Rebbe that he spoke in beginning of 1992. This is very, very shortly before he had a stroke, which rendered him unable to speak. Just a couple of weeks before. So the Rebbe explains over here that every Jew has to be rich, and that potentially every Jew is rich. When we're talking about both physically and spiritually. And that's why when the tabernacle was built in the desert, the first thing that God requested was gold. So because gold is a sign of giving charity. Zeh hanoten bari says. And the essence of what a Jew is to benefit the world, to do good to the world, to improve the world, to fix the world. That's the essence of every Jew. And in order to do this, you have to reveal your wealth, your spiritual wealth, and also physical wealth. A person that has money, as he's able to do a lot of good, a lot of improvement, give a lot of charity, help people that are needy, and not be needy yourself, not have need to receive. You can be the giver. Ba'od, and even more, and this is the main thing. Ba'od, and this is the main thing. Let's talk about something which is relevant, timely, and important. Excuse me. B'niyas Beis Hamikdash Shlishi, building the third temple, really. Building the third temple. After all of the explanations that we had at Asli Mikdash V'Shachanti Betocham, that God, that's this week's Torah portion. God said, make me a holy place and I will dwell among you. The simple meaning is, now Jewish people, you saw me on Mount Sinai, you want me to be in a permanent way, build a temple, build a tabernacle. There's going to be in the tabernacle will be the tablets. The tablets have the same revelation, carry with them the same revelation that was on Mount Sinai. So make a tabernacle, and these tablets will be among you. My revelation will be revealed in you, among you. But there's also another meaning that says, make me a temple, make me a holy house, mikdash, and I will dwell inside of you, inside of each and every one of you. Because it could say, make me a mikdash, and I will dwell in it. That's what it should say. I'll dwell in it. And I'll tell you where to put this thing. It'll be, right in the center of the camp. That's where to put it. Later on, it'll be in Jerusalem. Make me a holy temple, and I'll dwell in it. But it says, no, I'll dwell in them. In each and every one. Excuse me. Hari, behold, ein mikri, they say, shuto, the Torah does not go out of its simple meaning. The call Rosh, first of all, that means lahalacha maisa. What does it mean? Midrash and Chassidut explains that every Jew is a holy temple. And that's what it means we want to make. But the simple meaning is that God was commanding the Jews to make a house, a special place. That's the simple meaning. Al Bnei Israel, that the Jewish people are obligated, is put on them the obligation, to actually build a holy temple. Okay, what are we supposed to do? Beit HaMikdash Shlishi, how are we going to build the third temple? But Pashtut Mamash, simply, like the Rambam says, Shiabane al Yidei Mashiach, it'll be built by means of the Mashiach. the Rambam, Maimonides says that what's the Mashiach going to do? What's the goal of Mashiach? What's the goal of Mashiach? It says Mashiach is going to fight the battles of the Jews. Anything that comes to weaken Judaism, Mashiach will fight the battles. And then he's going to build a temple. Mashiach is going to build a temple. And then he'll gather all the Jews together. Like I said before, when there's the temple, so the Jews will want to come to Israel, because only in the temple can you do the commandments. And all the Jews will be awake to godliness and to the temple, and to the commandments, and they'll all come to the land of Israel. So therefore, that's who's going to build this temple? Mashiach. Says clearly. You want to gather the Jews to Israel without the temple? Can't work. Has to be a temple. You want to gather the Jews together without Mashiach? Maybe build a temple without Mashiach. It's not going to work. You can't do it. But on the other hand, we're commanded to do it. Everyone is obligated to build and to help themselves and with their money to build the temple. Men, women, just like in the Holy Temple. So 1 second, what's going on over there? The Mashiach is going to build. The Rambam says only Mashiach is going to do it. The same Rambam says that we have to do it. So moving so we can understand. This is what's going to be also the third temple. Because the Rambam is not just a history book. It's not talking about what there was. It's talking about that there's a commandment on every Jew right now in 2024 to build the temple. Each and every Jew has to participate in this, by means of nidvasov, by means of his charity, men, women, etc. And we can say also children, just like it was back then in the desert. That's what. Ubafran, and especially in our generation, we've already educated and accustomed, and we're continuing to do this, the children, to give charity. In addition to the fact that all the children are emissaries to give charity, right? Giving charity. We give them also money that they become their own personal money in order that they can give charity themselves. Okay, so how are we supposed to build a temple? What's going on over here? What's going on over here? We're supposed to make a menorah and make the trumpets. So what are you supposed to? No. Mashiach is going to do all that. So what are we supposed to do? It says our efforts to do good in this world, to give charity, to give commandments, to think about building the temple, to learn about building the temple, to learn about what exactly is implied in the temple. What does it mean? What's it going to look like? What's it for? To learn about this speeds up and also strengthens the building of the temple. So while the Jews were in the desert, so they took them a year to build the temple. King Solomon took also how long he took to build the temple, a certain amount of time. We've taken 2,000 years to build the temple, the third temple, by means of all of our work and our prayers and our suffering of the Jewish people and the tears and the unanswered and the efforts we've been making, etc. 2,000 years of frustration and work and faith in God, that's what's going to build the temple. And we just have to continue. But nosov lakach, and give charity more, to do everything we can to think about that there should be a third temple. It says the third temple is going to come from heaven. Mikdash Hashem konani yadecha. It's going to come from heaven. In fact, it says it's already there, waiting in heaven. Mishuchlal. It says banui mishuchlal. So building. This is not a Kabbalistic thing. This says in the Gemara, in the Talmud, it's in the Tosfot, it's other places that the third temple, it's a legal thing. It's going to be. In any case, nosav lakach. In addition to that there is also halimu b'pashto, simply mikach from this shemishenichnas adar, that when adar comes in, you have to increase happiness. Shabo b'hosafa al. This is in addition to the commandment that you have to be happy all the time. You have to ivdu et Hashem b'simcha. A Jew always has to be happy because you're serving the creator of the universe, right? You're important. God is creating you. He's creating you for a purpose and empowering us. That should make us happy. Serve God. as avodas Hashem Elokecha b'simcha b'tuv levad, serving God with happiness and a good heart. U'pesak din, that's what the Ramah says, tov leiv mishtatami. You have to have like a good heart, like in a festive meal all the time. Now we're in the beginning of the month of Adar. And this year, Adar, there's 2 months of Adar, Adar Rishon, Adar Sheni. That's the way it was back then when the Rebbe was speaking. That's the way it is now also. Alpia, you do it like it's what's known. That now, that in the beginning of everything, there's always a special power. That opens up the pipeline for joy in the course of the whole entire year. Like I told you before, it's a known thing. You can see it in the world, in history and in sports especially. You can see that there's some sort of a record, and that record, that you can't run a 4-minute mile faster than 4-minute mile. And one person broke the thing, and then all of a sudden everybody did. All of a sudden it became a possible. You can't jump higher than 7 feet. One person did it. All of a sudden everybody's doing it. Right? It's a regular thing. And the same thing with music, with everything that there is. One person makes a breakthrough. He's the first one. That gives a special power to everyone else. So now we're in the beginning of the month of Adar, which is the breakthrough for happiness and to appreciate God and how close God is, and God is creating us. Therefore, we immediately, now we're in the beginning of the month, we have to draw powers from the beginning of the month, laharbot mishenichnas Adar, to increase happiness all the time. So it's not just something that the Rebbe is talking about and it's in the books, that we should actually do it, incorporate it into our day-to-day life. By means of this, but each and every one, achat, will accept on themselves good resolutions that bring to action. They should do whatever they can to add and to increase and multiply positive things. Say positive things, think positive things. Says the Rebbe, now, today, in a way that it's permissible on Shabbos. On Shabbos, you can't play music or whatever, but in a way that's permissible, you can dance, you can sing. On Shabbos, especially B'yom Simchatchem Elu, that says, this is the Shabbat. Shabbat is supposed to be a happy day. Well, and after that, often the Mosif, or the Sameach, B'kol Yom V'yom, Mibeis Chodesh Adar. Therefore, it should, every day of these 2 months of Adar should increase every day, 60 days of increased happiness. The Hosif Yoter, to add on more and more in happiness. Now, if you remember, well, how can you be more happy every day? If you remember, we just finished learning that happiness comes from understanding. And once a person understands that everything that's happening in this world is for the good, and God is empowering me that I should do something to make it better, and I should learn something positive from everything that happens to me in the world. And I think we know very clearly from all these thousands and thousands of self-improvement classes and seminars on attitude or whatever it is, that your attitude changes things. Right? A businessman, a salesman that goes in with a smile on his face and he really believes in his product, it's much more, the chances that he's going to succeed and the person who's going to buy his product are much greater than if he goes in just thinking about, this guy's probably not going to buy it. Nobody buys from me, I'm just a loser. Well, the Hosiv Yoter even more in happiness. I heard a story there's thousands of stories like this about these motivation stories and motivation, but there was some fellow that he worked for a business and he made a mistake, some sort of a tragic mistake that caused the business a loss of like $1 million. So the boss came to him and the worker said, and the boss said, "What are you doing?" He said, "I'm packing up my stuff. You're probably going to fire me now because of this. I hope you don't sue me. It wasn't my fault." And the boss said, "What are you sad about? What are you miserable about?" He said, "Well, listen, a terrible mistake. You're going to fire me." He says, "Fire me." He said, "I just paid $1 million to teach you a lesson that you shouldn't repeat. I'm going to fire you after I invested $1 million in you. In other words, you could look at a loss as a loss that's gone, or you can look at a loss as a lesson, as a lesson in life. And so it is, everything in life can be looked at as a lesson to increase our happiness and positiveness in the world. Although see if every day should be more and more happy. According to what the general principle is known, that everything, everything which is good and holy, that a person, anything that's good and holy, the sooner you do it, the better. Call them maktim and meshubach. But call them marbe, and the more you do of a good thing, the better. How much more so of happiness. Happiness itself, that on its own, it should be a way of porous getter. Happiness is a thing that breaks through. Breaks through the negative effects of this world. So you should do as much of it as you possibly can. Be positive, say a good word to people, say hello, good morning. How much more so marbim b'simcha, we have to increase happiness in the month of Adar. And how much more so ba'ofen shekol yom, that every day mitvosefes is added on even more happiness regarding the days before it. So simply, what do we want to say? What do we say? Simply, shekol echad ve'echad misrael, that every single Jew, Yosef, should add on the call in Yani Simcha, everything that will bring happiness. Whether we're talking about himself, whether we're talking about making other people happy, he'll do it like it's known that Shlem was the completion, how do you say, a whole idea, the complete wholesomeness of happiness is when you're with somebody else. If you're by yourself, you can be happy, but it's happier if you're with someone else, to dance with someone else. Well, the call of Rosh, first of all, beginning al yedei hosafa Pikuri Hashem Yeshorim Samchelev. The commandments of God are straight and they make us happy. And also, Pikuri Hashem means the the laws of God. That's the Torah. The Torah, that's the laws of God and the commandments of God. In the Torah, that makes learning Torah, the revealed Torah and the concealed Torah, especially the concealed Torah, learning is great because it brings to action. Doing the commandments in a special, happy way. When a person looks at the commandments and he thinks each command you do, tefillin, it's a tremendous opportunity to come close to God. Yet, like I told you before, every day I go to this nearby hospital and I stand outside and I ask the visitors and the people to put on tefillin. And they do. Anyway, so yesterday happened, every day there happens something different, unique. Yesterday there was some fellow with his wife. His wife had there was this big pole with the bag. She had an infusion. They were outside. They were waiting to go into something. And I asked a couple of people to put on tefillin, and they put on. And a couple of people said they didn't want to. And this fellow came over to me and he said, "Oh, I really want to put on tefillin. Can I put on tefillin?" So I said, sure, and I put that, and he didn't know how. So I asked him if he's Jewish. He said, yeah, he's Jewish. And so I said, did you ever put on tefillin? I said, maybe I did at my bar mitzvah. It could be, but the fellow was maybe 30, 35, something like that. And he said, yeah, maybe I did in my bar mitzvah, but I didn't really pay much attention. I said, I don't really remember. And what's the blessing? I said the blessing. And he was just so enthused. I never really saw it. I mean, it should only be that I should be as enthusiastic as he was. He was just he enjoyed it so much that he was putting on tefillin and he stood there and his wife was looking at him with like admiration, He put on tefillin. I said, you should put on every day. Do you have tefillin? He said, I don't know. I must have somewhere. I said, yes, you're right. That's a good thing. You see that, and what is tefillin in the end? The guy's not a religious person. He's not worried about going to hell or thinking about going to heaven, something like that. He's not putting on tefillin so his wife will get better. I don't know, maybe he was, but if he was, then he would have just put on tefillin for a couple seconds and that's it. He was really reading there. Of course, he's Israeli, so he understands Hebrew. He was really reading and he stood there for maybe 2-3 minutes, and And you read the whole thing, and I saw he wasn't looking up or any whatever, and his wife was patiently waiting for him. And he didn't say something like, I'm doing it for you, dear, or, give me a blessing, my wife should be healthy. He didn't say anything like that. He just was happy to put out the tefillin. And you just see that tefillin, in fact, is a thing from the Creator. It's like the reason why the Creator is creating us. It's this positive relationship that can't be understood. But there it is, right there. It's $2. You put them on your arm. Says that when you think about what's the inside of it, you understand a little bit, then that's happiness. And that's one of the things that makes you happy in the month of Adar. And Gamze Ikar, by means of being more happy and doing the Torah and the commandments, Dvar, this will also be not only being happy to do the commandments, but being happy even in everything in the day, everything you do. Gashmim, al yadam. Things that used to make you angry don't make you angry anymore. Things that used to make you frustrated don't make you frustrated. They make you sad. They make you depressed. They don't make you sad and depressed. Suddenly you're happy. Listen, I'm being created. God loves me. My whole life is this amazing, beautiful gift, right? So then everything all of a sudden becomes easier. Like we said before, the chirush, the Adar, in the month of Adar, also the world, also in the physical world, right? Like we said before, the month is a happy month. It's a healthy mazel, good luck month. Because even in the physical world, like the Shulchan Aruch says, and also in this, there's also relevant to the person should be happy with himself. Like we said, tovle mishtatamid. Whether with making yourself happy and making others happy. The people in his house, your family, your wife, your children. A man should make his wife happier. Parents should make their children happier. And things that make them happy, like we said before. Like the Pesach of the Shulchan Aruch. If nothing else, then something makes you angry. In the month of Adar, don't get angry. Be happy. Like it says, when Av comes in, I missed the mistake. Especially Sha'av, that a father, Yismach et Yaladav, should make his children happy. Like we see, that by means that a father makes his children happy, this adds on by them a special happiness. A father has a special ability to make his children, to please his children. Sometimes we say mila kasha, sometimes a person will say a harsh word to a pupil in order to educate him. But afterwards it has to bring to an addition to chavivus aleim. Sometimes it's necessary to say something harsh, but you should explain, listen, the reason I said that to you, right? Don't be lazy. Right? How long are you going to be lazy? How long are you going to mess around? Right? The reason I said it because I really care for you. I really love you. And, it's not good for you. Come on, what are you paying attention to those foolish things for? Says that makes happiness. And also to add on to make other Jews happy around him by means of this. May it, like we said before, that by means of this, you become Ben Olam Haba and also Ben Olam Hazeh. Like I told you the story about Rishua ben Levi, that he went with Elijah the prophet, and he showed him who are the people that are going to go to heaven, Olam Haba. Two people that walked around, they made jokes with everybody. They joked around and they laughed. And and a good thing about happiness, and Professor Viktor Frankl, he points this out very clearly, which I advise everybody, if you can't, to read any of his books as a man. Man looks for meaning. The Lubavitcher Rebbe recommended it. That happiness is a thing that you can't force yourself to do. It has to come from something genuine. You doing something genuine, feeling something genuine. But you can't force yourself. But it's not that happiness won't spread out if you're just forcing yourself to smile and something like that. Happiness has to come from a genuine feeling of, how do you say, of contentment with life. a certain contentment with life. True, life always you have to be seeking constantly to improve, and you have to be dynamic and to fix. But there has to be a basic, even if God forbid everything is taken away, but nevertheless, as a person has to be basically content for the fact that whatever happens, it's what God wants to happen. Like we learned in the Yom Yom yesterday, and that at least I can think positively, or I can have a positive attitude toward things. And people had this even in the concentration camps. But from a positive attitude comes happiness. It ensues. That's why it's a very big mistake in America, and this is what Professor Frankel also points out, that they have pursuit of happiness. Happiness cannot be pursued. It has to ensue from something, doing something meaningful. And now the Rebbe is giving us all these meaningful things that we are. We're Jews, we're being created by God, we have a purpose in the world. We have nothing other than to say a positive word, make other people happy. But feeling that we're doing it because we are empowered by the Creator, that makes us happy itself. Well, but Ikra, the main thing, Tifrots at the Begadim, and I have to get glasses. Tifrots at the Gedarim, to remove all of the limitations of which are now in this last minute that we are in exile. Shezeh Yaseh Harega Rishon, that'll transform immediately to the first moment of redemption. Shabo al Yadeh, that comes by means of Maisenu V'Avodasenu, our work that we've done, and especially by means of happiness. It's like a person, let's say, that is poor. He has $1 million, but you put the $1 million in a box. So he has to open up the box, right? So he has to open up the box. So he opens up the box, suddenly becomes rich. But before that, he was poor. And especially by means of the service of the righteous women, that in their merit will come the future redemption, just like it was going out of Egypt. And especially the righteous women that have passed away, Al Kiddush Hashem. The Rebbe is going to repeat this, and he repeats it many times in Crown Heights. There was a big tragedy that occurred, that a thief came into a house, busted into the house to steal whatever he wanted to do. But in any case, he killed a woman. Was there alone. She was unsuspecting. She didn't know what was happening. And he burst in and he killed her. And this was one of the Hasidic Chabad. And the Rebbe brought this up over and over again, that the tremendous tragedy of the matter and how it could possibly happen and how it could happen didn't make any sense. And especially, it says, well, how can we add on happiness? It says we should know that the women, they're the ones that are bringing the future redemption. And especially those women that have died sanctifying God's name. They were killed only because they were Jews. May it be God's will that this will be the last instance of these things happening. Or, in fact, there shouldn't be any death at all, even from natural causes. There'll only be long life, shanim tovos, and good to every single Jew, the halal in general, all the Jews, men, women, and children, and in a healthy way, and especially in this month of Adar, when it says it's a healthy mazal, in the month of Adar, healthy physically and spiritually. Until Ad She'ovrim, until we will come without any delay whatsoever to the raising of the dead, the Geula Mitit V'Shlema. And this, the merit, Zechuta, the merit of this woman, that she died, she was killed by this robber only because she was a Jew. He could have broken into her house and just stolen, but no, every Jew, and especially Bavadai, especially this woman herself, beginning from that, from the fact Shekavar Haya Hikitzu V'Ran Nushok Ne'afer, but Tzedikim et Tzedeka, but Tzedikos Kamim Yad. It says that there will be, first of all, the raising of the dead, and this woman that was just tragically killed, she'll be among the first ones, because there'll be an order to it. And in the place of all this death and etc., Yemole Schok Pinu, our mouths will be filled with joy, Rino, and our tongues song, and especially by means of this, that we make a preparation and we make a vessel for this by means of our joy right now. Me'ayin Yemole Schok Pinu. We should be as happy as we can now. And that happiness we have now will be a vessel for the happiness that the Mashiach will bring, and especially will bring at the end of the time of Mashiach, with the raising of the dead by means of doing the commandments now, and especially by the commandment of tefillin. That the commandment of tefillin, it says, and badach, nasim badach tova, made a special happiness that there is. Me'ayin yamali schok pino, that tefillin are one thing that makes a person happy, and especially in our generation, the generation of the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, that his name is happy. Yosef Yitzchak. Yitzchak means to be happy. This indicates also on the tzchok, the schok, the simcha. This is joy and laughter and rejoicing. Call Bnei Yisrael, all the Jewish people. So what the Rebbe is trying to say is like this: we're rich, but like I said before, a person that's poor and he's in the garbage cans, whatever, looking around for a piece of sardine or something, and you give him a check for $1 million, all he has to do is go to the bank and take the check out. But as soon as he gets this check in his hands, he's rich. And the fact of the matter is, he says, no, the fact of the matter is you were always rich. You just didn't have the check, that's all. The money was deposited for you in the bank. We didn't know where the check was. So every Jew is rich. But if we don't know that we're rich, so we feel poor. As soon as we know that we're rich, and that's what the Rebbe is trying to tell us, that we're rich spiritually and we're even rich physically, is then that reveals our true nature. The true nature is gold. The Kol B'nai Yisrael, all the Jewish people, Binorenu, the youth, the elders, our sons, our daughters, together with all of their money, their silver and their gold with them, together with all of the houses, the shuls, the synagogues, and the places of learning outside of Israel. And if you've done so in your house, so your house also will fly to the land of Israel, come to the land of Israel, to Jerusalem, Ira Kodesh, the holy city, to the holy mountain, to the holy temple, immediately now, really.